Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the place you come when you want the absolute best knowledge distilled from the world's most helpful sources. Today, we are diving deep into, well, the absolute core of English confidence. We're tackling a topic that, for many English learners, and let's be honest, maybe even some native speakers, causes some serious grief, suffering, and anxiety. We're talking modal verbs.
Oh yeah, that anxiety is definitely real because these 9 or 10, little helping verbs like can, could, may, might, must, should, will, would, they really are key. They often make the difference between speaking just basic English and speaking English with um, real social precision.
Yeah.
They're deceptively small words, but they carry massive meaning.
Precision. Yeah, that's the word. I think we've all been there, right? You're speaking English, feeling pretty good, confident, and then bam, you hit a modal verb. And suddenly you kind of freeze up. You're worried about conjugation or the structure or making a mistake. Maybe you've heard someone say something like this, or maybe even said it yourself. I might to go to a party tonight.
Right. Or maybe she must call her boss immediately.
Ugh. Yeah.
And, as soon as you hear that extra to or that ace, that shouldn't be there. You know something's structurally off. It's like an instant signal, isn't it? That the speaker hasn't quite nailed the basic rules, the flow of English.
Exactly. And that lack of flow, that little structural slip up, it can just completely undermine the confidence you've worked so hard to build.
Absolutely.
So our mission today is pretty clear. Let's eliminate that anxiety. We are going to really take control of these powerful helping verbs. They help other verbs express really crucial things like ability, permission, possibility, obligation.
All the important stuff in communication. They're basically the social and structural glue, you could say, of confident English.
That's a good way to put it. Social and structural glue.
And by the end of this deep dive, our goal is that you won't just know what these modals mean. That's kind of the easy part. You'll understand their absolute unbreakable structural rules. You'll get their power level, how sure they make you sound.
Ah, the power level. I like that.
Yeah, and the social weight they carry. This is really the shortcut to speaking what our sources call real American English, accurately, confidently, in professional settings, daily chats, everywhere.
Okay, let's definitely unpack that structural foundation first, because I agree, once you master the structure, understanding the meaning gets a whole lot easier. And the good news, apparently, is that modals actually simplify things for learners struggling with English conjugation, which sounds almost too good to be true.
It really is good news. This is the core principle, the thing that makes modal verbs so, well, rare and wonderful in English grammar. They only have one form, just one.
One form, really.
Yeah, they're pure modal, so you don't have to worry about adding ing or ed or constantly changing them based on tense or who you're talking about. They're stable, rock solid, and that stability leads us right into the first golden rule.
Okay, lay it on us. Rule number 1.
Rule 1, no change based on subject.
Ah.
Think about almost every other regular verb in English, right? I walk, he walks, she eats, they eat. You have to stick that S on for the third person singular he, she, it.
Right, the dreaded S.
Well, modal verbs, they completely ignore that rule. They just don't care. They never, ever change, no matter the subject.
Okay, so give me an example. If I'm talking about my brother.
You would never, ever say, he must be tired. Ugh.
Okay, yeah, that sounds terrible.
It does, and it immediately flags it as, a structural error. It's always, he must be tired. Always, she should clean her room. Doesn't matter if the subject is singular, I, he, she, it, or plural, we, they, you. The modal stays exactly the same.
So I can, we can, she can, never I cans or she cans.
Never cans. That's the first big structural shortcut. Just treat every single subject the same when you've got a modal in the sentence. Easy.
Okay, that is a simplification. So if Rule 1 simplifies conjugation, what about Rule 2? You said it tackles the most common structural mistake, like that I might to go example, that painful to.
Exactly. That rogue to has got to go. Which brings us right to the second structural imperative. And honestly, this one is probably the most vital for sounding fluent. Rule 2. The base verb follows directly, no to.
Base verb, you mean like the simple form?
Precisely. The main verb that comes right after the modal has to be the simple base form. Think of it as the infinitive without the to. And critically, that base verb is never conjugated. Not for tense, not for person, nothing.
Okay, so back to the examples. It should be, he might join us for dinner.
Perfect. Not he might to join us, or he might joining us.
Right, and I can help you with that.
Yes, not I can to help you with that. That little to popping up after the modal, that's probably the #1 structural trap people fall into. Avoiding it is key for fluency.
Got it. Modal, then base verb, no to in between.
And this rule, it's really strong. It holds up even when things get a bit more complex, like with continuous tenses or the passive voice. People often ask about that.
Okay, yeah, let's explore that. What if I want to say someone is, like, probably studying right now? How does the modal work with that theme form?
Great question. You still follow the rule. The modal takes the base form of the very next verb in the chain. In this case, that verb is be. So you'd say, she must be studying right now.
Ah, I see. Must plus the base form be.
Exactly. Notice we didn't say she must to be studying
Right.
or she must study. Nope.
Mm.
It's modal must. Then the base form of the auxiliary,
Mm-hmm.
and then that auxiliary carries the continuous ing form.
Okay, that makes sense. The modal only directly affects the form of the very next verb. That's the key.
That's the key.
So what about the passive voice? That's super common, especially in, professional emails and reports.
Same principle.
Yeah.
Totally consistent. The passive voice needs to be plus the past participle.
Right. Like is done, was sent.
So if you want to suggest a report needs completing, maybe using should, you follow the rule, the report should be finished by Friday.
Modal should, base form be.
Yeah. Or speculating about the past. The package might have been sent yesterday.
Might, then base form have, then been.
Okay. The structure's rigid. Modal plus base verb, which might be or have or do, or the main verb itself.
So if you remember nothing else structurally, just burn this into your brain. The two words right after the subject have got to be the modal and the pure, naked base form of the next verb.
That's the heart of it.
Oui.
Precisely. And rule 3, that covers how we handle questions and negatives structurally.
Right. Questions. You mentioned this simplifies things compared to regular verbs, which sounds promising.
It really does. We use something called inversion. Basically, the modal verb just swaps places with the subject. The modal jumps to the front.
Okay.
And here's the critical part. You do not use do, does, or did to form these questions. You need those helpers for almost every other verb, like, do you work here, or did she leave?
But not with modals.
Not with modals. You just ask directly, can I go to dinner with you, or will we be late for the movie? The modal leads the way and forms the question all by itself.
Wow. Okay. That is way simpler than remembering all the dodos did rules for other verbs. What about making things negative?
Also pretty straightforward. You just add not directly after the modal verb. Should not, could not, must not.
Simple enough.
But there are a couple of little spelling and usage things to watch out for here. First, cannot. In American English, it's almost always written as one single word, C-A-N-N-O-T.
Got it. One word, not cannot.
Generally, yeah. One word is standard. Second, contractions. We usually contract negatives, right? Couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't.
Yep.
But you should almost never contract may not.
Really? Mayn't isn't a thing.
Well, may technically exists. You might see it in very old texts or certain dialects, but in modern American English, almost never used. Stick with the full may not. It always sounds correct and, frankly, more natural.
Interesting. Even the negative keeps that slightly more formal feel for may. We'll probably circle back to formality later. But before we shift gears from structure, we have to quickly mention those two oddball modals. The ones our sources basically say, just skip them if you want to sound like a modern, fluent American English speaker.
Ah, yes. The structural leftovers. We're talking about ought to and shall.
Why skip them? What's the issue?
Well, ought to is structurally weird because it needs that to after it. I ought to go. That immediately breaks our golden rule number 2, right? Modal plus base verb, no to.
Ah, good point.
Yeah.
It breaks the pattern.
Exactly. And shall. Well, when it's used to suggest something or ask for advice or obligation, like, shall I make tea or you shall not pass, it sounds very, very formal now.
Mm.
Or maybe a bit British in certain contexts.
Right, like something Gandalf would say.
Pretty much. So if you hear someone say, I do my taxes soon, it just seems a little stiff, maybe even old-fashioned in a regular American conversation.
So the advice is?
For natural fluency, just swap them out. Use should instead of ought to for advice or obligation. And use will, or maybe am I going to, for future plans instead of shall. You'll sound much more current and authentic.
Okay, good tip. Avoid ought to and shall for everyday American English. Right, so we've got the structural rules down. No S, base verb follows directly, use inversion for questions. Now let's get into the meaning, the spectrum of meaning. This is where you said mastering modals really boosts confidence, right? These power levels.
Exactly. Because modals are all about communicating certainty or lack thereof. They're how you signal to your listener precisely how sure you are about something, an event, an action, a deduction you're making. Understanding this scale gives you incredible, rhetorical precision.
So you're not just stuck saying maybe.
No, you can say probably or possibly or there's a tiny chance or I'm absolutely certain. Modals let you fine-tune that level of certainty. They exist on a clear scale.
Okay, let's start at the top then. Maximum certainty. When you're like 100% sure about something because of the evidence you see.
Deduction, right?
That's it, deduction. And that is the exclusive job of must. You use must when you look at the evidence and you logically conclude something is definitely true. There's no other reasonable explanation. Okay, give me an example.
All right, imagine you see your neighbor outside, drenched in sweat, gasping for air,
Yeah.
bright red face. You don't just think they went for a run. You look at the evidence and you conclude they must be training for a marathon. The evidence forces that conclusion. It's a logical necessity.
Got it. Must for 100% positive certainty based on evidence. Now, you said this kind of certainty has a direct, absolute opposite.
It does. For deduction, the opposite of must is can't. This means you are 100% certain, based on the evidence, that something is not true. Impossible.
Okay, so if my phone is brand new, fresh out of the box.
And someone suggests it's already broken, you can shut that down with certainty. No way, this phone can't be broken. I literally just bought it yesterday. It conveys the highest level of negative certainty. It's impossible in your view.
Must definitely yes, can't for definitely no when deducing. Okay. Now, let's step off that 100% cliff and into the fuzzier area of possibility. This is where those percentage markers you mentioned come in handy. The possibility hierarchy.
Exactly. Moving down the scale of certainty, let's start pretty high, say around 80% possibility. This is where we find can.
Can for possibility. I usually think of it for ability, like I can swim.
It does both. For possibility, can suggests a general strong likelihood. Or maybe a general truth that happens often, like, be careful, the highway can be really busy around 5 p.m.
Ah, okay. So you're saying it's a known, frequent possibility. You have high confidence based on past experience.
Precisely. You're warning someone based on a strong pattern. Now, drop down a bit, maybe to around 60% possibility. Here we have could.
Okay, could. How's that different?
Could suggests a medium possibility. It's reasonable, that might happen, but it's less of a general truth than can. Often it's used when there's a specific condition involved, stated or implied. The concert could be canceled if it storms heavily.
So it feels a bit more hypothetical or conditional than can.
Often, yes. It's a solid possibility, but maybe not quite as expected or frequent as it can.
Okay, now this is where I had a question earlier. We're at 60% with could. You said may is around 50%. That's really close. Why have both? And why does may often feel more formal?
That is a fantastic question. And it gets right to that idea of social weight we talked about. You're right, could and may can overlap a lot in terms of pure certainty. But may definitely carries a more reserved, maybe official or formal tone.
How so?
Think about formal announcements or written notices. The library may be closed on Tuesday due to renovations. If you said could be closed there, it sounds a bit more speculative, less certain, almost like a guess. May implies that this moderate possibility is like officially acknowledged or planned for.
Ah, okay. The formality signals a different kind of possibility almost.
Exactly. So may sits around 50% possibility. Moderate chance, often feeling a bit more formal or deliberate, like we may go to Ireland for our holidays this year. It's a genuine possibility being considered.
Makes sense. And the last one on the possibility scale, the lowest certainty.
That would be might, down around 30% possibility. Might signals the lowest level of certainty among this group.
So if you say, it might rain tomorrow.
You're saying, yeah, there's a chance, but honestly, don't bet on it. It might rain tomorrow, but I wouldn't cancel the picnic just yet. You acknowledge the possibility exists, but you're not putting much confidence in it actually happening.
This is really useful. Knowing that choosing between could, may, or might isn't random. It's literally dialing your confidence level up or down between, say, 60, 50, and 30%.
It's an incredibly powerful tool for nuanced communication. It is the fluency tool. And what's really cool is that this whole system, especially the structure, stays consistent even when we're talking about possibilities in the past.
Ah, right. Speculating about things that already happened when we weren't there or aren't sure. How does that work again?
There's a fixed three-part structure you absolutely have to memorize for past possibility or deduction. Modal plus have plus past participle.
Modal plus have plus past participle.
Okay. So let's say you're wondering why your friend missed the meeting yesterday. You can use any of those possibility modals or the deduction modals with this structure, depending on how sure you are. She must have been sick. That's 100% deduction about the past based on maybe knowing she wasn't feeling well.
Okay.
She might have forgotten about it. Low certainty, maybe 30%, just a guess.
Right.
She could have been stuck in traffic. Medium certainty, 60%, a plausible reason.
Wow. So the structure stays the same, have plus the past participle, like have been, have forgotten, have done, and you just swap out the modal at the front to show your level of certainty about that past event.
Exactly. Once you know that three-part ending, have plus past participle, you can plug in must have, can't have, could have, may have, might have. It's incredibly systematic and useful for sounding natural when you're uncertain about the past.
Okay, we've nailed certainty and possibility. Now let's dive into the social side of modals. You called this their social weight. This feels really important because choosing the wrong word here can make you sound, I don't know, demanding or weirdly formal or just off.
Totally. Getting this right is absolute crucial, especially for professional fluency, but really in any conversation. This section is all about that conversational nuance that learners are often looking for. The modal you pick instantly sets the tone, the temperature of your interaction, especially when you're asking for something.
Okay, so let's start with subsection A, permission and requests. You mentioned mapping these onto a politeness scale.
Yep, let's use those percentage markers again, but this time for politeness. Starting at the lower end, maybe around 40% politeness, we find our friend can.
Okay, so can you help me with my homework? Or can I borrow a pen?
Exactly. It's direct. It's super common, especially with friends, family, people you know well. But it's probably not the first choice when you're talking to your boss's boss or asking a favor from a stranger on the street, unless it's maybe an emergency. It can sound a bit too direct, bordering on demanding if the context isn't right.
Right, so need more politeness.
You step it up. Moving to about 60–70% politeness, we get could.
Ah, could.
Could is generally seen as the safe, polite middle ground. Could you pass the salt, please? Or, excuse me, could you tell me what time it is? Using could shows more consideration, a bit more deference or respect. It's often the default polite choice in many situations, especially professional ones.
Okay, safe middle ground. Good to know. What's even more polite?
Climbing higher on the scale, often considered the standard for formally asking permission. Around 70% politeness, we have may.
May, the classic textbook example, right? May I go to the restroom?
That's the one. Or, may I use the conference room for a quick personal call? May specifically asks for permission, whereas can sometimes blurs the line with ability. Remember that old correction from teachers or parents?
Yeah. Kid asks, can I go outside? Parent says.
I don't know, can you? You mean, may I? Because the child isn't asking if they are physically able to go outside. They're asking for permission to go outside.
Right. And may is also used to formally give or deny permission too, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, you may. Or the rather stern, no, you may not.
Okay, so can is casual, could is polite, may is formal permission. Is there anything even more polite?
There is. For very polite requests, jumping up to maybe 80% politeness, we use would.
Would. How does that work for a request?
Would often sounds best and most polite when you pair it with a phrase that softens the request even more, making it less direct, more like an option the other person can easily refuse without feeling awkward. Think about, would you mind closing the door? That's super polite because you're literally asking if it would bother them. Or, would it be okay if I took a picture? Again, very indirect, very considerate.
Okay, would for extra politeness, often with mind, or be okay if? And just quickly, you mentioned might earlier as super formal.
Yeah, our sources put might way up at 90% politeness. Might I borrow your pen? But honestly, if you use that in everyday conversation in the U.S. today, it might sound a bit strange, maybe even overly formal to the point of being slightly funny, unless you're actually speaking to royalty.
Okay, good to know. Stick to might for low possibility, not super polite requests.
Exactly. So the key takeaway here for everyday use is really understand that the difference in feel between can, could, and would for requests. Nailing that distinction is a huge step towards conversational nuance.
Got it. Okay, let's switch gears within the social side. Subsection B, obligation and advice. This feels like another potential minefield, especially confusing must and have to. You said the key is internal versus external obligation.
That's the core distinction. And it shows how grammar isn't just dry rules. It reflects context, psychology, where the pressure is coming from.
Okay, let's start with must for obligation.
Right. Must signals a strong obligation or necessity, but crucially, it often comes from inside the speaker. It's about their feelings, their conscience, their strong opinion, or a sense of personal duty.
Example.
If I say, I must stop eating so much junk food, I really need to get healthier, that pressure is internal. It's my own decision, my own feeling of necessity. No one is standing over me with a rule book.
Okay, internal conviction, but must is also used for rules, right? Like signs.
Yes, it's also used for very strict rules, laws, or commands, especially when the speaker feels they have the authority to impose that rule or they're stating an undeniable requirement.
Okay, here's that tricky question again. A police officer telling someone the law, is that internal or external? Should they use must or have to?
That's a great test case. When the speaker is the authority or is representing that authority, like the police officer or a sign stating a park rule, must is often preferred. It conveys that strictness, the non-negotiable nature of the command. You must wear a seatbelt. All visitors must register at the office. It feels stronger, more direct than have to in those cases.
Okay, so must is internal feeling or speaker's authoritative strict rule. What about when the obligation is definitely not coming from the speaker?
That's where have to comes in. Have to is generally used when the obligation is purely external. It's imposed by outside rules, circumstances, schedules, other people, things the speaker often can't change. It feels more impersonal.
So, like, I have to work late tonight because my boss scheduled a mandatory meeting.
Perfect example. The obligation comes from the boss. The schedule is something external. Or I have to pay my rent by the first of the month, or I'll get a late fee. The pressure is the deadline, the potential fee, not my inner conscience saying pay the rent.
It feels more factual, less emotional than must.
Often, yes. And structurally, we absolutely need have to when talking about past or future obligation, remember.
Oh, right. Must doesn't really have a past tense form.
Exactly. Must is mostly for present or general obligation deduction.
Mm-hmm.
If you needed to work late yesterday, you can't say I musted work late. You have to use the past of have to. I had to work late last night. Same for the future. I will have to finish this tomorrow.
Crucial structural point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have strong obligation, must, have to. What about advice? Like something that's a good idea, but maybe not 100% required.
That's the perfect job for should. Should is weaker than must or have to. We put it around 80% strength for obligation advice. It's used for recommendations, suggestions, saying what the right or expected thing to do is.
You look tired. You should get some sleep.
Exactly. It's friendly advice, not an order. Or for expectations. The train should be here any minute now. We expect it. It is not guaranteed like a law.
Okay, should for advice and expectations. Now, the negatives. You stressed this earlier. The difference between mustn't and don't have to is huge.
It is absolutely critical. This is where major misunderstandings happen. Mustn't or must not means strict prohibition. It is forbidden. Do not do it.
Like the sign at the museum, you mustn't touch the artifacts.
Precisely. It means touching is absolutely forbidden, against the rules, zero tolerance.
Okay. But the negative of have to, that's totally different.
Completely different meaning. Don't have to, or doesn't have to, means there is no obligation. You are free not to do it. But you can't do it if you want to.
So,
Yeah.
you don't have to come to the party if you don't want to.
Exactly. There's no obligation to come. Or, this museum entrance is free, so you don't have to pay. It means you were relieved of the obligation to pay.
Oh.
It's optional.
And if I mistakenly said, you mustn't pay?
That would imply paying is strictly forbidden, like maybe it's illegal to try and pay, or against the rules. A very, very different message. Remembering mustn't forbidden versus don't have to, not necessarily optional. That single distinction prevents so many common communication errors.
Wow, okay. We've covered a ton. The structure, the certainty scale, the politeness scale, obligation. Now, section 4. This is the fluency boost, right? Applying all this to sound really natural in everyday conversations. Advanced uses, common phrases.
Exactly. Let's
Yeah.
make this knowledge practical and active. We need to spend a bit more time specifically on will and would because they do more than just simple future or politeness. For instance, would is fantastic for talking about past habits.
Ah, right. Not just used to. It paints a picture, doesn't it? Kind of nostalgic.
It really does. It describes repeated actions or routines that happened regularly in the past but aren't happening anymore. It adds a nice flavor.
So instead of saying, when I was a kid, we used to go to the beach every summer, I could say.
When I was a kid, we would go to the beach every summer. It just sounds smooth, describing that regular past activity. When I lived in Spain, we would often stay up late eating tapas. It avoids repeating used to over and over.
Nice. And would is also absolutely essential for unreal conditions, right? Imaginary situations.
Foundational. If I were rich, I would travel the world. That's the classic structure for hypothetical advice or dreaming. If I were you, I would take that job offer. You're advising based on an imagined scenario.
Okay. And will. Beyond just the simple future.
Right. Will, often contracted to coup in speech, I'll call you, handles a few key things. Yes, simple future predictions or plans. It will probably rain tomorrow. I'll meet you there at 6. But also, spontaneous decisions made in the moment. Phone's ringing. Don't worry, I'll get it.
Ah, the sudden decision will.
Exactly. And also, strong promises or statements of intent. I will always be here for you. Or even refusals. No matter what you say, I won't change my mind. Won't being the contraction of will not.
Okay, will and would have these extra layers. Now, let's get concrete. You mentioned 6 fixed phrases using modals that are super common in American English. These are the things we can start using right away.
Let's do it. Phrase number 1, a real classic. I think I can.
I think I can, I think I can. That's from The Little Engine That Could, isn't it? The children's story.
That's the one. It's deeply embedded. We use this phrase, often almost chanting it slightly, when we're facing a tough challenge and need to encourage ourselves or someone else.
So if I'm struggling to finish a really difficult project,
You might mutter to yourself, okay, deep breath, I think I can, I think I can. It uses can to express that possibility and ability, even when you're feeling doubt. It's about building self-belief.
love that one. Okay, phrase number 2. You called it a reduction summarizing regret.
Yes, it's the very colloquial coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Sounds like could have, should have, would have all squished together.
Exactly what it is. Remember our structure for past possibility speculation.
Yeah.
Modal plus have plus past participle. This phrase takes the 3 main ones, could have, should have, would have, and uses them informally to basically dismiss regret or stop dwelling on past mistakes.
So I mess up a presentation because I didn't practice enough, I might say.
You might sigh and say, man, I really should have practiced more. Oh well, coulda, shoulda, woulda. It acknowledges the regret, should have, but then dismisses it like, what's done is done, no use crying over spilled milk. It stops the cycle of what-ifs.
Useful for letting go of stress. Okay, number 3. Captures nervous readiness.
That's ready. As ready as I'll ever be.
As ready as I'll ever be. So I'm about to give a huge presentation or take a final exam.
And someone asks, are you ready? You might respond with this. It means I've prepared as much as I possibly can. Perfection isn't realistic, so let's just do this. It acknowledges you might still be nervous or not 100% perfect, but you're accepting the current state of readiness. It uses will, I'll, to project into the future state of being ready.
Acknowledges imperfection. I like it. Phrase number 4, uses should for strong expectation.
Right. The interjection. I should hope so.
I should hope so. When would I use that?
You use it to express a very strong expectation that something, often correcting a wrong or fulfilling an obligation, will happen. It carries a sense of that's the least they can do, or that better happen.
Example.
Let's say a company made a mistake on your bill and overcharged you. Your friend asks, are they going to fix it and refund you? You might reply firmly, they'd better. I should hope so. It uses should with an intensity that's almost like must in this context, expressing the strong expectation of the right thing being done.
Got it. Strong expectation. Number 5 is a warning, using low possibility.
Yes, the cautionary proverb. Be careful what you wish for, it might come true.
Okay. The modal here is might, signaling that low 30% possibility.
Exactly. But the implication is powerful. It warns that getting what you think you want could have unforeseen negative consequences. The might implies it's not guaranteed, but the possibility of a negative outcome is real enough to warrant caution.
Like wishing for fame and then hating the lack of privacy?
Perfect example. You got your wish, but the reality wasn't what you expected. Be careful what you wish for. It might come true.
Okay. And the last one, number 6, an optimistic phrase.
Yes, the slightly formal but lovely interjection. As luck may have it.
As luck may have it. Using may, 50% possibility, bit formal. What does it signal?
It signals that something fortunate and surprising happened purely by chance, often resolving a difficult situation unexpectedly. It introduces a lucky coincidence.
So, like, my car broke down on a deserted road in a thunderstorm, but
Right.
as luck may have it, the only other car that passed by in an hour was a tow truck.
Exactly. It frames that lucky break using may, suggesting it was a chance event, a moderate possibility that thankfully became reality.
Okay, wow. We have really covered a huge amount of ground today on modal verbs. The mission, just to recap, was to turn that anxiety a lot of learners feel into real structured confidence.
Yeah, and I think we tackled it by breaking these powerful little helping verbs down into those 3 key areas.
Right. First was structure, the golden rules.
Yep. Rule 1, modals have only one form, no ways. Rule 2, always followed by the base verb, the simple form, with no to in between. And Rule 3, Questions use inversion, modal first. Negatives add not, and crucially, no dodos did needed for questions.
And remembering that structure holds even with continuous or passive, the modal only changes that very next verb.
Exactly. Second area was the power scale, communicating certainty.
Ranging from that 100% deduction with must, certainly true, and can't, certainly not true.
Down through the possibilities.
Yeah.
Can, high, maybe 80%, could, medium 60%, may, moderate, 50%, often formal, and might, low, 30%. Using that scale gives you precision.
And the third area was that social weight, politeness and obligation.
So crucial. Choosing the right modal for request, can versus could versus would, to set the right tone. And understanding obligation, the internal feeling or authority of must versus the external circumstances of have to.
And never ever forgetting that negative distinction. Mustn't means forbidden, don't have to means no obligation.
Say that right, and you're golden.
Okay, so here's our final thought, something for you, the listener, to take away and really chew on as you practice your English. Now that you know these rules, especially the structural ones and the politeness certainty scales, you actually possess a knowledge of English modals that might be more precise than many native speakers.
It's true. Native speakers use these intuitively, but they don't always consciously know why one sounds better or more polite than another, or they might even make small structural errors without realizing.
So fluency isn't just about knowing words. It's about using the words that carry the right social weight, the right level of certainty, and the correct structure. You now have the tools for that precision. You can avoid mistakes that even native speakers might make unconsciously.
So the call to action is clear. We really encourage you, now that you're armed with these rules and scales and phrases, to actively test yourself. Start listening for modals when people speak or in things you read. And more importantly, apply what you learned today. Make a conscious effort, maybe in your next English conversation or email, to think, okay, should I use could here or would be more appropriate? Focus on that social difference.
Absolutely. The only way to truly internalize this and make it automatic is to use it. Integrate it into your speaking and writing, apply what you learned, and definitely tune in to the next deep dive for more English learning guidance and more structural breakthroughs. We'll see you then.